enjoying his treatment. And Maharaj told me that tomorrow he'll go to the Coimbatore temple. We have a temple there, beautiful temple also. And for Ram Navami, Maharaj will be there. And he told me that he was very happy that I was going to be here tomorrow. Hare Krishna. So, the class will go until what time? 9? Sorry, so late? Okay. Hare Krishna. So as Gauranga Prabhu just mentioned, that he was expecting me to give a sort of a seminar on a very important topic that GBC had been discussing for last many, many years, and systematically through a committee called Srila Prabhupada's Position Committee, a subcommittee in GBC. They have eventually come up with a book called Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON. Actually, nobody has any doubt about Srila Prabhupada's position as the founder Acharya. But the consideration was, what does it actually mean, founder Acharya? Srila Prabhupada is the founder of ISKCON. No one will ever contest that. Srila Prabhupada is the founder. And Srila Prabhupada will always remain the founder of ISKCON. But this concept of Acharya, that Acharya of founder, she is not only the founder, he is also the Acharya of ISKCON. So that is what we had to thoroughly research, and this committee had about 11 members, and the committee was formed in 2006, and for 7 years we had been researching, discussing twice a year. During the GBC meeting, we had an extensive, in-depth probing into this topic. And then eventually, Ravindra Sarup Prabhu, who is actually, most of us, most of the devotees in ISKCON think that he is one of the best thinkers, one of the most profound thinkers, and the one of the best writers of ISKCON. And so Ravindra Sarup Prabhu, who also is a member of the team, eventually wrote this book. And this book had gone through extensively by the GBC members and the senior devotees of ISKCON. Their input also was taken to establish this concept of Srila Prabhupada as a founder Acharya. And then finally, this book has come out this year, and we want these books to be read by anyone who comes in contact with ISKCON. Anyone who becomes involved in ISKCON. We want everyone to read this book in order to understand Srila Prabhupada's special position in ISKCON. So I'll briefly give you the background of this. Like, Prabhupada actually got this concept of founder Acharya from his spiritual master, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur established an institution. The name of that institution was Gaudiya Mission. And in a way we can see that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur got this concept of institutionalized propagation of Krishna consciousness movement from his father and Shiksha Guru, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. Bhakti Vinod Thakur revived Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as you all know, created an incredible spiritual revolution in India. He revolutionized the spiritual scenario of that time, about 500 years ago. At that time, India was completely under the Muslim domination. And Vedic culture, due to the influence of Kali, was became practically contaminated with all kinds of misconception. What was going on in the name of Hinduism had very little to do with the Vedic culture. All kinds of superstitions and all kinds of undesirable activities were introduced in the name of Vedic culture. The Brahmanas were dominating the scene, who were actually caste Brahmins in most cases, meaning they are born in a Brahminical family. By caste they are Brahmins, but by qualification they were not. And this was a very, very ominous phase of Vedic culture at that time. So at that time, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and revived the Vedic culture through his Sankirtan movement. He came and established the Juga Dharma. What is the Juga Dharma for this age of Kali? Harinam Sankirtan. There are 4 Yugas, and for those 4 Yugas there are 4 different types of dharmas. Krite Jadhayate Vishnu, Tretayam Jajote Makho, Dwapare Paricharjayam, Kalau Tad Hari Kirtanad. In the Krita Yuga, in Satya Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is Dhayate Vishnu, meditating upon Vishnu. In Treta Yuga, the Yuga Dharma is Jajote Makho, performing sacrifice for the pleasure of Vishnu, Yogeshwar or Makho. And Dwapare Paricharjayam, the Yuga Dharma of Dwapar Yuga is to worship the Lord in the temple. And Kalo Tad Hari Kirtanat. And the Yuga Dharma of the age of Kali is to chant the holy name of the Lord. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Namaiva Kevalam, Kalo naste va naste va naste va gatirannatha. So, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and established the Yuga Dharma. In other ages, to perform dharma, there was the consideration of qualification. Especially the spiritual activities were performed by the brahmanas. But in Kali Yuga, there was total Varna Shankar, admixture of the castes. There's ashrams and varnas. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and gave a process which is meant for everybody, and which was very strongly opposed by the brahmanas. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's, he successfully established the Yuga Dharma, Nam Sankirtan. But soon after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, soon means say about 200 years after Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance, his Sankirtan movement again became affected by all kinds of apasampradayas. Apasampradayas means the group of people who claimed that they are the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they are not actually proposing or they are not presenting and practicing the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They had nothing to do with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but they claimed that they were the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In some cases, the deviation came gradually, and in some cases, the deviation came rather abruptly. Just they came and just started to claim that they are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And those apasampradayas are known as Aul, Baul, Lara, Lady, Sokhi Bheki, Smarta, Jati Goswai, and all these. There are 13 apasampradayas. And these apasampradayas eclipsed the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, totally eclipsed his teachings. And as a result of that, Mahaprabhu's teachings were lost. And what was going on in the name of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings is just this, what these apasiddhantas, the deviant propositions of these apasampradayas. So in this way, when Mahaprabhu's teachings were practically lost, at that time Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur came. And Bhakti Vinod Thakur started to revive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement. Just to give you an idea how ominous the situation was at that time, when Bhakti Vinod Thakur became interested in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, he started to look for a Chaitanya Charitamrita because he heard that in Chaitanya Charitamrita Mahaprabhu's teachings have been presented in a most sublime way by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. But in entire Bengal, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur couldn't find a single volume of Chaitanya Charitamrita, single copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Eventually he found a copy, a handwritten copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita in Orissa. Then he took that Chaitanya Charitamrita and he started to print Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita with his Amrita Prabaha Bhashya, his own commentary. He gave the commentary on Chaitanya Charitamrita called Amrita Prabaha Bhashya, which literally means the flow of nectar. The commentary, that is the flow of nectar of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And this is how Bhakti Vinod Thakur started to revive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. And the intelligent class of people, intellectual class of people, sophisticated people started to realize the wonderful profundity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, the sublime nature of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur himself was a very high-ranking government officer at that time. At that time, India was under the British rule, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur was Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a deputy magistrate in the British government. So he was an extremely busy person because of his very high position in the government service. So he could not himself do very much to establish Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teaching and spread Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. He wrote books. He started to print books. He started to write many, many wonderful books. He presented Mahaprabhu's teachings in the form of beautiful poetries, in Sanskrit, in Bengali, in English. He was an extremely brilliant personality. But he could, and at some point he resigned from his office and he started to committed himself completely to establishing Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. But he himself could not do very much. So at that time, when he was the deputy magistrate of Jagannath Puri, he prayed to Lord Jagannath for a qualified assistant, to send a qualified assistant who could help him in his preaching mission. And as a result of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's prayers, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur came as his son. And it is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur who actually furthered the mission of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. The blueprint of Krishna consciousness movement that Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave through his writings, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur started to implement that. And through Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings and through Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's action, one thing became very clear, that both of them could perceive that to spread Krishna consciousness movement all over the world, in every town and village, there is a need for a collective endeavor that would continue generation after generation. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu predicted that Krishna consciousness movement would spread all over the world in every town and village. How many of you are aware of this prediction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Please raise your hand. So all of you are aware of it. Now, just consider the impossibility or the incredibility of this prediction. When did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu make this prediction? About 500 years ago. 500 years ago, when people did not even know how many continents were there in this planet. At that time, Columbus just discovered America. And although he reached America, but he didn't actually realize that it was America that he discovered. He thought it was India, because his aim was to come to India. Because those days India was the most glorious country, the most opulent country. And from Europe, they used to have trade with India overland. And traveling overland was very risky. There were bandits, dacoits, and there were so many difficulties, deserts, so many difficulties they had to overcome to come to India. But still people used to come from Europe to make trade, to have trade with India, take the wealth from India. Their dream was to come to India and become rich. And at that time, Copernicus this figured out that the earth is round. Prior to that, in Europe they used to think that earth was flat. But Copernicus discovered that the earth is round. So here the young man, Columbus, he considered if the earth is round and if there is ocean in the west, now if I move westward, then he'll come to India. And he convinced the Queen of Portugal, Queen of Spain rather, Isabella, and convinced her to patronize him to find a waterway to India. She liked the idea, she patronized him. And Columbus set out, built a beautiful boat, strong boat, and got his crew, and he set out to find India moving, traveling westwards. India is in the east, but if the earth is round, then if I go west, then eventually he'll come to India. So that was the idea. So when he landed in the West Indies, again West Indies, so he found the land, so he thought he came to India. And that's why the original Americans, the Aborigines of America, are known as Indians, Red Indians. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Srinath Ji ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki Jai. So the point is, 500 years ago, people didn't even know how many continents were there. But at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, see how emphatic his prediction was. Prithibite ache joto nagoradi gram, which means as many towns and as many villages are there, everywhere, all over the world, my Sankirtan movement will spread. Sarvatra prachar hoibe mor nam. Nam Sankirtan will spread. The Juga Dharma will spread. So 500 years back, this prediction was made by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It was an impossible prediction. But no matter how impossible it may sound, can anything be impossible for the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So when the Supreme Personality of Godhead said that, it's bound to happen. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had that implicit faith. And with that faith, he started to revive his Sankirtan movement. As early as in 1894, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote in his book called the Bhagavat and the Life and Precepts of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he mentioned that a time will come when these teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would spread all over the world in every town and village. He's simply repeating what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said. It would spread in every town and village. And all the religions of this world will come under this umbrella of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. Now this is also another incredible prediction or incredible assessment. Like at that time, India was under the British rule. In the deep influence of the British domination. When the British made Indians feel, not only feel, believe with full conviction that whatever is Indian is useless, and West is the best. That is what they very successfully made all the Indians believe. And that faith or that influence or effect of the British teaching is still prevalent in India today. Even still today we are blindly following the West. We are blindly imitating the West with a deep conviction that West is the best and India is no good. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur, at that time he wrote with such conviction, as if he was seeing the future. He is saying that it will happen. It will happen. Like Mahaprabhu's teachings will spread all over the world, so much so that all the religious conviction, all the religions will come under or will find a proper meaning of their conviction in Mahaprabhu's teachings. Because ultimately all teachings are culminating into Mahaprabhu's teachings. So, and Bhakti Vinod Thakur could foresee that for that we need an institution. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur understood that. And when he implemented his mission, when he started to preach, he established the institution known as Gauriya Mission. And within 15 years' time, he actually established that mission all over India. All over India. Can you imagine about almost 100 years ago, about 90 years ago, this Gaudiya mission had 63 centers and temples all throughout India. They had actually 64, but the 64th was one in Rangoon, in Burma. So he established 64 temples at that time. How many temples do we have? ISKCON? No, in India? Anyway, it took us some time. Okay, ISKCON has only about 45 to 50 temples, big temples. So we can see, about 100 years ago, he had 63 temples established in 15 years' time. Because he started to preach in about 1920, and he left this planet in 1936. So, and we can see that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he gave maximum emphasis on the institution. And before leaving this planet, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur he did not appoint any successor. Whereas all the religious institutions, those days, not only those days, even now we see, the most of the religious groups, they appoint a successor. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur did not mention anything about a successor. Rather, he instructed his disciples to collectively maintain the institution through a governing body. And he himself did not say very much about his position as the founder Acharya, but he implied that they should actually manage the institution through him as the head of the institution. That is how Prabhupada actually also got the concept of founder Acharya. Although Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur didn't so emphatically mention that. But with Prabhupada we find that Prabhupada was quite emphatic about that. I'll come to that, why Prabhupada did that. One thing, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur and Bhakti Vinod Thakur and Srila Prabhupada, our Srila Prabhupada, knew one thing, that this massive task of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world in every town and village is not going to happen in one generation. It will take generations after generations to make it happen. Therefore, there is a need of a collective endeavor. And for that collective endeavor, there is a need for an institution. And to hold the institution together, there is a need for a collective management and a specific head of the institution. So these concepts were very clear in their mind. First thing, this massive task is not going to be achieved in 1 or 2 generations. For that, in order to continue the mission, there is a need for a collective endeavor. To systematically implement that collective endeavor, there is a need for an institution. And in order to hold the institution together, we need a head of the institution who will stand against the onslaught of time, or who will remain over a period of time even after his disappearance. And to hold it together, there is a need for a collective concept of management. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur quite clearly indicated that to his disciples, but unfortunately they couldn't understand that, because there was no such precedence in the past. So soon after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance, his leading disciples started to consider that how can a spiritual institution go on by through some group of managers? How can a spiritual institution continue with a group of managers? Rather, to continue the institution, we need an acharya, a spiritual head. And disregarding Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's instruction, they appointed an acharya. And unfortunately, that acharya fell down. And when the acharya fell down, the structure was resting on him, so the structure collapsed. And Prabhupada pointed out, then after that, first struggle started, 2 groups wanted to become the acharyas. And then when the acharya fell down, then the structure collapsed, and then everybody wanted to be the acharya. And see, I'm just giving the history, and there is no need to hide anything, because in order to understand things clearly, we have to have the proper perception of what actually happened. And as a result of that, we see what happened in the Gauriya mission, which was so effective at one time that it had 63 temples around India. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's dream was to take it out of India, spread it all over the world, because that is how Mahaprabhu's prediction would become a reality. But unfortunately, soon after his disappearance, the structure collapsed. And when the structure collapsed, we can see that they're maintaining their spiritual life. Different leaders had their different groups, their different temples, and they're carrying on with their spiritual life. But that massive preaching mission came to a grinding halt, just stopped. The only person who could actually understand the heart of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was Srila Prabhupada. how when Srila Prabhupada took sannyas, he was actually trying to help. And I mean, you can actually, it will be very interesting to read. Like Prabhupada wrote a few poems after Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disappearance. One is called Vaishishtastakam, and the other is called Viraha Ashtakam. So in that poetry, Prabhupada is clearly mentioning, he is urging his God brothers, that please try to understand the Guru Maharaj's mission. Like, he had such a wonderful vision, and he showed how to implement that vision into a reality. So let us all get together and make that reality, the dream of our spiritual master come true. But his poetry, his poems just remained poems. Just like people read poetry and don't pay much heed to it. Nobody took it seriously. Then eventually Srila Prabhupada goes to America. When Prabhupada went to America, and when the Prabhupada got the first opportunity to somehow start something in America, Prabhupada wrote to all his God brothers that please, not all his God brothers, his leading God brothers, that now this opportunity has come in America. Guru Maharaj wanted that we do something in the Western world. So please come and let's do it together. Prabhupada was prepared to give them the leadership and become their followers, but they didn't respond. Then finally Prabhupada actually decides to form his institution. And that is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And from the very beginning we notice that in this institution, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, Prabhupada did not really establish himself. From the name itself we can see the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. It's interesting to note that at that time many other Indian gurus also went to America. They had their institution, and take the names of all the institutions, what do you find? All these institutions were named after themselves. Chinmay Mission, anyway, let's not mention the names. So they're all named after themselves. The only exception was the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And then what Prabhupada does? Soon after that, Prabhupada forms a GBC with 11 members, the governing body. Prabhupada gives the purpose of that institution, the 7 objectives of this institution. And this is how we are seeing that Prabhupada, right from the beginning, was forming the institution. And Prabhupada knew that he had only a few years. He went to America at the age of 70. He started the movement at the age of 71, actually. ISKCON was established in 71 in a small little storefront in 26 2nd Avenue. When you are 70 years old, I mean, you know that you don't have much time. Prabhupada was very much aware of that he didn't have much time, but here is the massive task of spreading Krishna consciousness all over the world that his spiritual master asked him to do when he was only 26 years old. He received that instruction when he was 26 years old, but finally he got the chance to implement that instruction when he was 71 years old. So Prabhupada started to spread, to establish the institution. And he formed, the first thing he did, establish the institution. And so what a bold step Prabhupada took, we can see. And that also shows Srila Prabhupada's foresight. Prabhupada named the institution the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. The lawyer who was actually registering the institution, and even his few young American followers, all of them thought that to call it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is not a good idea. Rather, call it the International Society for God Consciousness. Because people in America don't know what Krishna consciousness actually meant. But Prabhupada was adamant, no, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Swamiji, people don't understand who Krishna is. Prabhupada said, I have come here to make them understand that Krishna is God. So we can see such clarity of perception. Like Prabhupada knew that this is how the world is going to recognize the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then Prabhupada forms the GBC, the governing body. And what is Srila Prabhupada's role? He is one member of that governing body. He also has the same one equal vote, just one vote, one person, and no veto power. So that is how Srila Prabhupada formed the governing body concept. And Srila Prabhupada gave the emphasis on the governing body. You have to maintain the institution. You have to protect the institution. You have to continue the mission that I am establishing. And then, even during his last days, few months before Srila Prabhupada left the planet, Prabhupada very emphatically told us, don't make the same mistake that my godbrothers made after Guru Maharaj's disappearance. Guru Maharaj wanted them to maintain the institution through the governing body, but disregarding his instruction, they appointed an Acharya, and when the Acharya fell down, everything collapsed. Don't make the same mistake. What did Prabhupada mean by saying that? Maintain the institution collectively. Because individually, you may have problems. Individually, one may have problem. But the collective endeavor will protect us from that crisis. And we have seen in ISKCON, if we look at the history of ISKCON, we can see that many of our leading devotees had spiritual difficulties. But ISKCON is still going strong. Why? Because of this collective concept of management. Out of 30 individual leaders, out of 30 members, if one member has difficulty, then what will happen? That difficulty is not going to affect the movement so much. It will affect a big leader when he has difficulty. It will have its effect naturally throughout the movement. But the institution won't collapse because there are 29 other members to hold it together. And then in course of time, that person is going to be replaced. His position will be filled. So, then again, if another person has difficulty, there are 29 to protect that difficulty. Now, so this way we can see that an institution is of absolute importance. Institution is of absolute importance to continue the mission for generations to come. And so Like here we saw that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur just rarely mentioned once or twice about his position as the founder Acharya of Gauriya Mission. In some writings, in some articles, his position has been established. But he did not say very much. But it is interesting to note that Srila Prabhupada quite emphatically spoke about his position as the founder Acharya. And and it, at least to me, I'll honestly admit, it was actually quite surprising. I was quite surprised. It happened in Bombay actually, in Juhu Temple. The Juhu Temple was being constructed at that time. A newspaper article came out. And Srila Prabhupada read that article, and then he asked who gave the interview. And the devotee who gave the interview who spoke to the newspaper reporters, he was called in. And there were many other leading devotees present there, and Prabhupada blasted him. And why? That Prabhupada's name as the founder Acharya hasn't been mentioned in the entire article. And I was a new devotee at that time. I was thinking that Prabhupada is so humble. But why Prabhupada is so particular about his name not being printed in that article? It was at the back of my mind. At that time I couldn't quite understand, and I of course let it just pass. But later on I realized that Prabhupada was so emphatic about his position, so much so that Prabhupada, after that actually Prabhupada mentioned that wherever ISKCON's name comes up, there must be his name there as the founder Acharya. You all know that. In books, even in the temples, even wherever, ISKCON's name would be printed, ISKCON's name would appear, his name must be there as the founder Acharya, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Now, it's quite, in a way it was quite surprising. Like why, in one hand Prabhupada is so humble. I have seen people were giving credit to Srila Prabhupada in such an amazing way, and Prabhupada was always avoiding that credit. I remember once there was a press conference, and the press people were telling Srila Prabhupada that he achieved something that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself couldn't achieve. And they pointed out that Mahaprabhu spread Krishna consciousness all over India, but you have spread it all over the world, in a way indicating that Prabhupada has achieved something which is greater than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But what was Prabhupada's response? I haven't done anything. So Mahaprabhu has done it. My Guru Maharaj has done it. They are simply giving me the credit. They have done it, but they gave me the credit. So this is how, and not only in one occasion, time and time again I have seen that. Prabhupada, people would come and glorify Srila Prabhupada in so many wonderful ways, but Prabhupada would always avoid those glorifications and offer all the glories to his Guru Maharaj and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But in this instance, we could see that Prabhupada is so emphatic that his name should be there as the founder Acharya whenever the name ISKCON comes up. It took me some years to understand that. After we saw the crisis that our movement had gone through, and how this concept of institution protected us from those calamities, then I began to realize the importance of an institution. And to hold the institution together we need the head of the institution properly established. So Prabhupada was emphatic about his position as the founder Acharya, not for his own glorification and aggrandizement. Prabhupada was doing that just to secure the movement. Prabhupada was doing that just to secure ISKCON. And these two concepts are absolutely essential. Prabhupada's position as the founder Acharya and the collective concept of management through the governing body. So, anyway, so finally, all these ideas have been thoroughly discussed, and eventually it has come up in the form of a book. So, I think we have only a few copies sent here. How many? Anyway, these books are actually meant for free distribution. And we are going to translate them in all the major languages. We started to work already in Hindi, Bengali, Russian, and Spanish. Let me see. German, French. So they are going to be translated because in all major languages, so that everybody gets an opportunity to read this book, and understand what ISKCON is, what Srila Prabhupada's position in ISKCON, and eventually how this ISKCON is going to successfully spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So I will, Gauranga Prabhu, you let me know how many copies you'll need in English. I'll just arrange to send them to you. Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. As you said, Srila Prabhupada position as founder Acharya, I heard one of your lectures that you said the Christianity, they give more focus on Jesus Christ. So the Christianity now flourishing. So they focus Jesus Christ as a God. And how Krishna consciousness will flourish when we put Srila Prabhupada as a focus founder Acharya, and you just says relate something. So can you clear it?
Well, I think what I mentioned is that just as in Christianity, Jesus Christ has a very special position. Can you think of Christianity without Jesus Christ? Can you think of Islam without Muhammad? No. Even Prabhupada himself said that we should make a research on Ramakrishna mission. And find out our Ramakrishna's position there. Like, the institution is together because of this personality who set up the institution, who is the founder and Acharya of the institution. And that Jesus Christ is seen as God, that is a misconception. Jesus himself never said that he is God. He's always said he is the Son of God.